Far in the southeastern reaches of Turkey, where gentle hills roll lazily under a pale sun, there lies a small, solitary mound, adrift like a lone boat amidst an ocean of stone and earth. They call this place Göbekli Tepe, the Navel Hill, a name so simple, so unassuming. It feels as if it was meant to veil the miracles slumbering beneath layers of ancient soil. Before 1994, no one could have imagined that beneath that thin crust of dust lay a secret powerful enough to shake the very foundations of our understanding of human origins. According to what had long been believed, humanity's distant ancestors, the hunters and gatherers who wandered through forests and plains, were thought incapable of creating grand structures. It was accepted wisdom that only after mastering agriculture, domesticating animals, and settling into stable villages could humanity begin to erect monuments meant to endure the test of time. Yet, Göbekli Tepe, with a dating that reaches back more than 10,000 years before the Common Era, silently refuted all those old beliefs. A majestic temple, erected by hands that had never sown a field nor bred livestock. Elaborately carved stone pillars, arranged into mystical circles, crafted by people once thought to merely drift with the seasons, surviving from harvest to harvest. Who built these wonders, and for what purpose? Let us turn back the tides of time to the misty dawn of humanity, where the first dreams of the sacred and the immortal were etched into stone. Long before the birth of writing, long before the rise of the first empires. 15,000 years ago, this world was an unfamiliar place. In the north, colossal rivers of ice gripped the land in a frigid hold. The oceans lay dozens of meters lower than they do today. Endless plains were torn apart by biting winds and roamed by giants, mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, woolly rhinoceroses, moving like fragments of prehistoric dreams across the earth. Amid this harsh and unforgiving backdrop, small groups of humans wandered beneath vast, starlit skies, chasing migrating herds, gathering wild fruits among sparse woodlands. There was no wheat, there were no villages, no sturdy walls or dynasties had yet carved their names into stone. Only isolated humans, flickering campfires, and whispered tales told to invisible gods. Yet, in one small corner of the earth, what we now call the Fertile Crescent, nature kindled a miracle. Here, the climate gradually warmed, gentle rivers meandered through the land, and vibrant meadows burst into life, nurturing the first wild grains and legumes. Wheat, barley, lentils, sesame, all had yet to be cultivated, but they spread across the land like an unspoken invitation. And in the heart of this new cradle, a group of people, without names, without written records, without thrones, undertook something no human had ever done before. They built Göbekli Tepe. Not to live in, nor to farm. There were no roofs, no wells, no hearths to warm the cold winter nights. Only massive stone blocks, each weighing tens of tons, meticulously carved with images of lions, aurochs, antelopes, and serpents, coiling and twisting like dreams. These stone pillars stood in silent, solemn circles amidst the wilderness, like giant hands reaching skyward, trying to touch the heavens. Perhaps, for the first time in history, humans built not for their stomachs, but for their dreams. Dreams of gods, dreams of something higher, greater, more eternal than their own fragile existence. Large stone pillars have been found, standing up to 5 meters tall and weighing over 16 tons. Not hewn with iron tools, but carved using only primitive flint and stone. The small, calloused hands of unknown craftsmen cut, sculpted, and hauled these massive columns from distant hills, dragging them across muddy paths, under the fierce sun and wild winds of the primeval earth. And they did not build only once. They built, then buried their earliest constructions under layers of earth, and built again, higher, larger, stranger, generation after generation, not for survival, but as if to engrave a collective dream into the living bedrock, a prayer in stone reaching toward the heavens. At the center of each stone circle, 2 colossal T-shaped pillars faced one another, like silent gods exchanging an eternal secret. Carved upon their surfaces were fierce beasts, lions baring their teeth, snakes coiled in restless sleep, wild cattle ready to charge. images so vivid one could almost feel the breath of life emanating from them. Sometimes human forms appeared too, arms embracing the pillars, meticulously detailed belts carved into stone, yet curiously, none of them bore a head. As if, to those ancient people, the head, the symbol of individuality, mattered less than something far greater, far more enduring. Perhaps they believed the soul resided in the body itself. Perhaps the missing head symbolized sacrifice, rebirth, or mysteries lost to the endless march of time. But what force drove them to expend such effort to create a place so sacred? After thousands of years, the answer remains no more than a vague whisper beneath the dust of ages. Some believe Göbekli Tepe was humanity's first sanctuary, a gathering place for distant tribes who came bearing offerings, prayers, and reverence for unseen powers they could neither name nor fully understand. A temple built of stone, not of perishable wood or mud walls. An attempt to speak to the gods in the eternal language of endurance. Others murmur a different theory, that Göbekli Tepe was a gigantic clock, a celestial map carved from the ancient memory of stars, of the mysterious dance of the Milky Way, where each animal figure marked a constellation, a fragment of the night sky. They believe that when Sirius, the brightest of stars, first rose on the eastern horizon, it was here that these primordial people gathered to sing, to pray, and to erect these great stone circles in celebration of a new dawn. And there are even wilder rumors still that Göbekli Tepe was a monument of mourning, a silent memorial to an ancient catastrophe. Perhaps the memory of a comet crashing down, bringing sudden, devastating cold, wiping out crops and plunging the world into darkness for centuries. If that is true, then every carving, every silent stone pillar is a funeral song in stone. A silent, epic mourning, a life once ablaze with vitality, now extinguished. Then, one day, no one knows exactly when, the stone carvers abandoned Göbekli Tepe, without a word of farewell, without a single inscription left behind. They quietly buried the entire massive structure under layers of earth and stone, as if wishing to hide the dream they had so painstakingly built. A sanctuary that had once pulsed with the heartbeat of the first human dreams now lay sleeping beneath a shroud of dust, thicker than memory itself. Time flowed onward. New generations were born, lived, and forgot. Göbekli Tepe gradually faded from human memory, becoming nothing more than a nameless hill lying silent under the Turkish sky, where only the wild grass and the wind remembered the prayers once whispered here. Had it not been for a chain of strange coincidences, the mound might have remained forever a faint name on some forgotten map. But fate, or perhaps the silent gods carved in stone themselves, chose a man. In 1994, a young German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt, wandering in search of a new excavation site after his previous project had been flooded by a dam, happened upon a brief mention in a dusty old report referring to a peculiar mound near the region of Şanlıurfa. No one expected much from the place, but trusting in a hunch, in a vague faith in the untold stories of the earth, Schmidt set out for the hill of the navel, and everything changed. Beneath the parched soil, he and his team soon found flint fragments, unmistakable traces of ancient human hands. Then, with just a few shovelfuls of earth removed, the tops of the massive stone pillars emerged under the sun. T-shaped monoliths, intricate carvings, ancient beasts, and long-buried memories, all stirred and awakened after lying silent for over 10 millennia. Through seasons of relentless sun and wind, Klaus Schmidt and his colleagues painstakingly peeled away the layers of earth, revealing circle after circle of stone that had been sleeping for more than 10,000 years. Each stone, rising from the ground, was like a fragment of a long-forgotten story. A story without words, spoken only through carvings, through the silent outlines of headless figures, and through the wild, eternal gazes of primordial creatures. Gradually, Göbekli Tepe ceased to be just the secret of a single land. It became a message to the entire world that even before city-states rose, before pyramids pierced the sky, before kings crowned themselves in glittering gold, humanity had already lifted its gaze to the heavens, had already begun to dream beyond hunger and survival, and had already carved those dreams into enduring stone. In 2018, UNESCO officially recognized Göbekli Tepe as a World Heritage Site. In some profound way, the rough hands of those ancient builders, the dreams carved into stone so long ago, were finally heard again, after a silence so vast it seemed almost eternal. Klaus Schmidt did not live to see the day his life's work was honored. He passed away in 2014, leaving behind not only an archaeological legacy, but a question that would never be fully answered. How much do we truly know about ourselves? For among the stone pillars bathed in the glow of twilight, among the fading carvings buried under the burning gold dust of the earth, there may still lie secrets, waiting for another patient, reverent hand to gently knock upon the door. And when that moment comes, perhaps those nameless gods, long silent, will once again raise their voices.